Good evening, YouTube, and welcome to the Metallic Nightmare channel. I will be your guide into all things metal. My name is Jonathan, but you can refer to me as MN, short for Metallic Nightmare, or you can refer to me by my better known name here on YouTube, Hell's Unicorn, which is also the name I go by as my surname for the reviews that I write on the Encyclopedia Metallum site, or better known as the metalarchives.com. And I go by that nickname also on the Metal Observer webzine, although all of the reviews that I write are under my first name, Jonathan. And anyway, I thought I'd kick off this channel by just giving you a little tour around, show you some of the gear that I use, and then hopefully within the next couple days we'll get started. I'm going to be focusing primarily on giving lessons on the guitar, also giving some performances, some covers, and potentially also sharing some of my review work on the various websites that I write reviews for. So, without further ado, here's my gear. The first little piece of hardware that I wanted to share with you here is my amplifier. I use a Crate half stack. This is a 120 watt powered amp, and it has a very good dry sounding clean channel, which is kind of my preference because I'm a big fan of pedals for different effects, and in order to pull that off really well you need an amp with a good clean setting that won't interfere too much or mix in too much with the different effects that you're going to be using. The cabinet down below is about roughly the same size as your average Marshall half stack. It doesn't get quite that same vintage sound that you get with the Marshall. That's one of the reasons why I prefer it, actually. I mean, I'm a big fan of bands like Iron Maiden that use that old vintage sound, but the kind of stuff that I do tends to be a little bit more modern sounding, and so the Crate tends to work a little better for me. I know there's other amps out there that are a little bit more powerful, that are preferred for larger venues, but for a good small to moderate size venue, if you're playing out live, this is a pretty good amp to have. And especially if you're a big fan of pedals, be it distortion pedals or other various effects pedals such as digital delay, flanger, phaser, and so on. This is a pretty good amp to have. It's priced pretty reasonably. The total package was somewhere between $500 and $600. I bought it at the guitar store that I give lessons at, so I got a little bit of a discount on it, but I think it retails for about $560 for both the head unit and the cabinet down below. The second piece of hardware that I wanted to share with you is my pedal board. I'm more of a proponent of multi-effects processors, ones where you can mix effects easily and do it entirely in a digital manner rather than constantly linking individual pedals together in a line row succession. It's a little bit more convenient if you want to do quick switches between various mixtures of effects. This is the Boss GT8 model. It comes with 88 different groups, each containing 4 banks. So if you multiply that out, 4 times 88, you come up with about 360. Yeah, that's right, 360 different possibilities. 68 of the 88 banks are rewritable, which means that you can make alterations to it. The last 20 you have to basically go with what you've been given. The pedals that are numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the different various settings that you can use, and they have pre-designated titles, but really those titles aren't binding. You can mix in any effects that you want to, and you can write and copy them. It has a very nice little set of knobs here for altering the treble, the bass, the middle, and all the other various little nuances within each effect. And it's a little bit more convenient than constantly pressing a button up or down one individual notch in order to get the setting that you feel the most comfortable with. And we also have a control pedal which alters the bank that you're in, so really you can take that 360 number and multiply it by 2 to get 720 for all the different possibilities that you can get here. And also on the end we have an expression pedal. That's the big thing all the way to your right. And that switches back and forth between being a wah pedal and being a volume pedal depending on how you program it. And in my personal opinion, Boss is the way to go if you want to go with pedals, be it individual pedals or effects processors. It's really, really quality sounding, if you get my meaning. You really tend to get what you pay for with your equipment, and although Boss tends to be a little more expensive than a lot of other pedals, you really do feel that extra difference when you're playing through it. Okay, and this is one of the two guitars that I'm going to be using for these various lessons and performances that I'm going to be doing. This is an LTD model, pretty moderately priced, generally tends to run between $300 and $400. It has a real nice green finish on it. Basically, LTD is a moderately priced version of ESP, and it falls under the same company as ESP. And so you're getting basically a slightly less expensive version of the ESP sound, which is, ESP is the preferred guitar of bands like Metallica, certain German speed metal bands like Gamma Ray, for example, bands like that get that real rhythmic, crunchy, palm-muted sound. It's very good for that, and it's also good for lead playing. It comes with a Floyd Rose bridge, which is pretty user-friendly. I mean, some Floyd Rose bridges tend to be a little bit awkward, but this one is pretty straightforward, and it's still effective. You don't go out of tune ridiculously if you get a little bit whammy bar happy with it. It's got a good smooth feel on the fretboard. It's got 24 frets. Basically, it's a pretty good guitar if you're looking to play both lead and rhythm. And this is the guitar that I'm going to be using for all the songs that I'm going to be playing that are in half-step tuning. Basically, the primary tunings that I work with are either half-step tuning or standard tuning. Occasionally, I'll do drop D tuning or drop C sharp tuning in the case of the half-step tuning, but I really don't go under that because most of the metal bands I listen to are the older classic metal bands. I'm not really too big into metalcore and nu metal, and the only cases where you get songs that are tuned down 2 whole steps or you get drop C tuning is songs like Overkill's Skull Crusher and certain doom metal bands. And really, although I really like those that sound as well when it's played through that specific style, it's not something that occurs too often in the kind of music that I play, so I tend to just play that stuff in drop C sharp tuning. This is my other guitar. This is the one that I tend to use more often, and it's the one that I use for all of my standard tuning performances. This is a Jackson S3 Soloist. This is Japanese built. It's a really, really nice guitar for lead playing. It also has the Floyd Rose bridge. It's got 24 frets. Has a really, really sweet, just completely sweet feel to the neck and the fretboard. It's almost the same kind of rounded, smooth feel that you get from playing on a Gibson Les Paul, only it's fitted to the body of something that's a little more conducive to hard rock and heavy metal rather than classic rock. This guitar, Jackson is basically endorsed by a lot of better known bands. I mean, Metallica is a well-known band that endorses ESP, but Jackson, you got Phil Demmel from Violence, probably better known for his work with Machine Head. Personally, I prefer the old stuff he did with Violence. Also, Adrian Smith from Iron Maiden uses these, and probably the best example of a accomplished lead player that uses these, or used them I should say, was Randy Rhoads. He actually used a Chevelle model, but there's basically very little difference between the Jackson and that model. It's kind of a difference in name. There's a little bit, I think, of a difference in the fretboard feel, but otherwise it's basically the same instrument. And this is probably, I mean, I play a lot of stuff in half-step tuning, so you'll see me on the LTD quite a bit, but I'm going to be playing this one a lot. Yep, there we go. Lovely piece of machinery there. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that little introduction and that little tour. Hopefully I'll be getting some videos up in the next couple of days. I'm going to try to put up some stuff that isn't really up on YouTube yet. I'm going to focus on some songs that are less well known. If anybody decides that they want to request something, feel free to send it to me and I'll try to get around to it. My schedule is a little busy, so it might take a little while, but I definitely welcome any input that you have. and I definitely look forward to your comments. And that's basically it. So until next time, keep it metal.